What does mental toughness have to do with making hard decisions? For John Foley, it meant knowing the exact moment to roll his plane into a knife-edge pass, coming within 36 inches of another jet. The former lead pilot of the Blue Angels says he came so close to his teammate, he could see the cracks in the aircraft's paint. Today, we're talking with John about having that mindset, the mental toughness, and how it applies to the business world. Because John has since become an expert in high-performance teams, he shows how overlaying the tenets of the Blue Angels, a high level of trust, a commitment to excellence, and a gratitude to have a spot on the team can improve team performance by up to 300%. John is the best-selling author of Fearless Success and has worked with thousands of companies around the world to transform team culture with a glad-to-be-here mindset. I found myself really inspired by his message, and also by who he is as a person. He's someone who just raises the mood and energy of everyone he's with. And I think that really comes out in this interview. Without further ado, let's roll. Welcome to Truth Be Known. Welcome everyone to another episode of Truth Be Known. I am so excited to have our guest today. We have John Foley. If you don't know who John is, he was the former lead solo pilot of the Blue Angels. I'm from New York, so we always had the Blue Angels show. I live in San Francisco. I can tell you, John, my brother flies out to visit me in San Francisco every year when the Blue Angels are in town, so we can go and he can watch it. So it is really exciting on a personal level to have you here on a professional level. So welcome.
Lauren, thank you. And thanks, everybody. I am glad to be here. It is an honor. One thing I guarantee, not only will we have an incredible podcast, but when we leave this thing, those words, glad to be here, will mean a lot more to every single person. And I'm grateful, but also appreciative to have this time with you. Thank you.
Awesome. So to kick us off, tell us a little bit about you, about your background. I know you're best known for being the lead solo pilot of the Blue Angels. How did you get from there to where you are now? Tell us your story.
Yeah, that was actually a big shift. I think we all in life have to reinvent ourselves at some point. And after I'd spent over about 20 years in the military and flying jets off aircraft carriers, I was the lead solo of Blue Angels. And by the way, Fleet Week, you mentioned that earlier about San Francisco. Loved flying by Fleet Week. After that, I said, and it was actually one of the hardest decisions I ever made was, am I going to start a different career? And I was challenged with that. And finally I said, yeah, I had so many great mentors in my life. And one of them was my dad. And he was not only very successful in the military, but he ended up becoming chairman of all the water in California. And I watched him. I saw how he made that transition. I said, man, I want to do that someday. But I needed some help because I really didn't know much about business. And fortunate, I was able to get into Stanford Business School. I was a Sloan Fellow, and that was my bridge. So I went to Stanford Business School, and that's when this world of entrepreneurialism came up. I got to be honest with you, Lauren, I couldn't even spell it. How do you spell entrepreneur? But I said, I like it. And that was back in the late 90s. So you remember Silicon Valley? The boom and the bust was going on. I was right in that heartbeat, got out of business school, and one of my classmates calls me up and says, hey, what are you doing? And I said, I'm not sure. He says, why don't you come with us? They happen to be a private equity company right down there on California Avenue. So next thing happened, I'm thrown into the VC world. And I'm sitting there, and this is really interesting because I said, wait a minute, Philippe, everybody wants to be in private equity right now. I know nothing about private equity. I know nothing about technology. You all are experts in technology. Why would you want me to be part of your team? And he says, John, you know how to win. We can teach you all that other stuff. And that's what I was able to bring was this excellence, the precision, the teamwork of the Blue Angels. And I said, how can I overlay that into the business world? And that has started this career that now for the last 2 decades, I get to work with over 1,000 organizations like yourselves. And it's been the greatest joy. And I'm learning every single day.
I love that. I definitely want to dig into everything you've done on creating a culture of excellence and how you're building this. Before we go there, tell me, what are you working on now? You're working with all of these different companies. What sort of clients do you work with? What sort of consulting projects do you work on?
Yeah, so it's basically anyone who wants to take their game to the next level, high performance. So 1,000 organizations, a lot of Silicon Valley, all the big names there, of course, Mercedes-Benz and a lot of the big leadership companies. We work a lot in healthcare now because there's so much need for the commitment, the alignment, the connection of trust. Actually work with a lot of the good sports teams, the great sports teams. Nick Saban brought me in. We won a national championship. So what I've learned, Lauren, is that it's ubiquitous. And it's not just the US, global. You all had me at some of your events, and it was just powerful to see how do we take this message of high performance. On the Blue Angels, we actually, when we show up, 90 days later, we have a 300% improvement. And I said, holy cow, if we can do that flying jets, what if we could do that in the business world? And that's what we've been doing the last 2 decades.
So one of the things that I think about when I think about you, the work you do with the Blue Angels, is similar to conversations I've had with a friend of mine, long time childhood friend of mine is in the Navy SEALs. And I had this great experience where I got to spend an evening with people on his squad, his team. He's going to kill me when I missay what they're called, but
it's a SEAL team. SEAL team.
Yeah. The SEAL team.
Yeah.
It's like a bunch of big guys. He's like, one of the things afterwards, he's like, well, what did you notice? I was like, you know what? I thought they'd be bigger. I was like, you're enormous, but I thought people would be bigger. And he looks at me, he's like, Lauren, with the SEALs, it's not about how big you are. It's all about mental toughness. It's about that mental agility. And that's what makes, the best of the best in the elite different.
Yes. You know what? It's so incredible. It's not just with the Navy SEALs, and it's not just with the Blue Angels. It's like you said, any elite person, anyone in business and life has this ability to focus, right? This mental toughness. And in fact, when we were executing these air shows, let me give you an example of the focus we needed. So we would come at each other at 1,000 miles per hour closure. You probably know that one maneuver I call the knife edge pass, right? That's where Thumper and I,
Yep.
And by the way, we always get call signs. So mine's Gucci, Thumper's my wingman, right? We're coming at each other, and we're doing a mile every 4.5 seconds of closure. And I look out there, and it's a little dot, right? So this F-18, 2 miles out, is a little dot, and it's getting closer at a mile every 4.5 seconds. And all of a sudden, you look out there, and you go say, ready, hit it. We go by within a wingspan of each other. My head gets thumped from the airflow going over his canopy. Then I roll out, boom, 7.5 G pull, boom. But all of that, it's not the physical, it's the ability to focus. It's that mental toughness. And what I've learned, and Lauren, this is true in life too, it's you open up and close down, open up and close down. And the human brain can do that 65 times a second. So in that moment, I'm focusing down to see even is his nose attitude move. Then I open up and say, hey, I don't want to hit a sailboat mast. Am I going to hit something? No. Okay. Focus down, open up. And I think that's so true in life, right? In business right now, all the distractions that are around us. So how do you block out those distractions? How do you focus down on what's important? And then guess what? You got to reopen up. That's why data is so important, right? Okay. What do I need to know? Oh, got it. Focus down, open up. Same thing.
I think that's so true. And when you go in and you're talking to all of these different companies and you're talking about how do you create this culture of excellence? How do you create the best of the best in the elite?
Yeah.
What do you bring in and how do you start to create these super high performing teams and organizations?
Well, the first thing as I paint the picture, I think this is true in any life. You got to paint the picture of what excellence looks like. So I just show the video of us flying and I take you into how close do we fly? So just an example, Lauren, do you know how close do the Blue Angels fly? How many feet?
Even thinking about it is going to make me nervous. Is it 10 feet?
No, it's lower, less, closer. Give me another guess.
Oh my gosh. Is it 4 feet?
Less.
2 feet.
It's 3 feet. Okay.
Oh
but here's the thing. But here's the cool part. That's just where we start.
Yeah.
All right. The beginning of the year, we start at 3 feet. I like to say 36 inches. It just sounds cooler. You're 36 inches from another teammate going 500 miles per hour, sometimes upside down. And so what we do though is that is a 300% improvement over the best I've ever done. And this is what's cool about in business and life is when I was selected for the Blue Angels, I'd already flown in the movie Top Gun. I'd flown jets off aircraft carriers. I'd been an instructor pilot. And then the Blues say, Gucci, that's fine. We're happy to have you here. But guess what? In 90 days, you're going to have to improve your performance 300%. And I got to tell you, the first look was, I was like, what? Are you kidding me? I mean, that's not possible. And they said, not only is it possible, we're going to help you.
Yeah.
And we're going to put the processes and the support behind you. And we as a team are going to do that. And that's exactly what we did. Most militaries about 10 feet, which is what you started with. We get down to 3 feet, but then we get down to 18 inches. And that metaphor, yeah, I mean, look at this, Lauren, at 18 inches, you can actually see the cracks in the paint of the airplane you're flying next to. Yeah. And
That has to be so insane and just nerve-wracking and intense and filled with adrenaline.
it is. And here's the beautiful part is it's not just about you. It's about the team. So it's this beautiful combination of personal mastery or excellence and then connection to your teammates, alignment, commitments, these high trust contracts. And you're constantly, what I did is I said, wait a minute, this is what worked on the Blue Angels and how we had a process and a mindset and how I overlay that on different business situations. And I realized that I basically just reconstructed or deconstructed what was working there and apply it to an organization. So I'll give you a quick overview. You need to have the mindset first. I call that mindset glad to be here, which is the ethos of being
Mhm.
grateful and appreciative to have the opportunity, but also to bring in your operational excellence, to bring in the ethos. You got to earn the right to be there every single day. And that's how I felt on the Blue Angels. And by the way, that's part of the Navy SEAL ethos to earn the right every single day to be there. And I think that that is a beautiful thing when it conveys into the corporate world as well.
I think that's a great mindset to instill into the corporate world of that sense of gratitude and the constantly
Yes.
earning the right to be there and proving that. Something that I'm really taking away from the relationship that you have with Thumper and the other people on the Blue Angels is you have to have this extreme amount of trust
Yes.
to fly that close that fast. You have to trust them.
Yes, and here's the thing on trust is you got to earn that every single day, just like they earn the right. And we did the trust with what I call verbal and nonverbal contracts. So most of these, I call them high trust agreements, were done verbally. And I'll give you an example. So again, that knife edge pass, how did we set that up? My contract, I call it a contract, it's a covenant, which I said to the Thumper, my teammate, I say, hey, Thumper, I'll be on the flight line. Not 5 foot left or 5 foot. You can count on me to be there. I'll set the altitude. I'll make the timing corrections. I'll give you the command to execute a full stick deflection roll. You, my teammate, have one job. Miss me. Okay. It was the biggest, it was the biggest game of chicken you ever played, but it wasn't a game. And it wasn't chicken because we had discipline, focus, and these very heartfelt contracts. We would hold ourselves to those and we would trust the other person. I would hold the line and I would let him or her decide how close we come. That's pretty high trust. Okay. Just my job is to hold the line, your job, however you're feeling that day. Now, here's what's neat about that is it's built into a brief and debrief process. And that's what I like to share with organizations. How do you prepare? What's your standards? And then how do you learn? And that's the key. This glad to be here debrief is the secret sauce that allows organizations to spiral up very quickly.
How do you think corporations and businesses can create that degree of trust and ongoing trust and just constantly making sure it is there?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing is human beings, we need to connect. We know that's a challenge in the world the last, what, 8 months? I mean, it's hard. Look at us. We're virtual here, but we're connected, right? And I think that's so critical in any organization is the first thing is to get people to connect, right? The second thing is alignment. So once you're connected, and by the way, that's how you build trust. You build trust through connections. In fact, this morning I was doing what we call our Glad to Be Here experience with a healthcare organization. And we just spent a full hour taking people through this connection and alignment exercises. People walked out of there going, I've never felt so connected to my people, to my team. So you connect first, then you align. And then the third piece, Lauren, is commitments. Coming out of there with those high trust commitments
Mhm.
that says you can count on me, I'm going to count on you, and let's go out there and let's go make a difference in the world. And I think the key there, the last thing that is very critical is this purpose larger than self. That's one thing I've noticed on all high performance teams. They not only have a purpose, it's always larger than self.
I love that. This is the North Star. This is the hill we're climbing. Have you ever heard the JFK "We're going to the moon" speech?
Yes. With the janitor, you mean?
Yep. It is one of my all-time favorite.
But let's see. Let's hear it again. I want to hear your version of it because it's such a powerful thing.
We are not doing this because it is easy. We are doing this because it is hard. And it's that it is, we are doing this because it is hard. And you're just sitting there going, you know what? We should do this.
Exactly. Oh man, I love it. And you meant the speech. So there was a second piece to that speech. He actually went down to Cape Canaveral, right? And so he was visiting with the astronauts and the whole organization. And he was walking out of one of the hangars. And there was a janitor who was doing his job. And the president walked up to the janitor and said, "What do you do?" And the janitor looks at him and goes, "Mr. President, I'm helping put a man on the moon." And it was like, whoa, the ethos of everybody realizing that we're pulling together. I just got tears in my eyes because I know how powerful that is when that is true within an organization.
I love that because it is the I'm not sweeping floors, I'm not cleaning up. I'm here to get someone to the moon. It's just technically you're doing the exact same thing, but the why behind it is why the why is the why. People will work extra hours, will put in better work, will be more committed because, oh my gosh, if I do my job as good, if not better than I ever expected, I can put someone on the moon. I can help this country achieve things we never thought possible. Who wouldn't want to be part of that?
Exactly. The ethos of the Blue Angels, we actually call ourselves ambassadors. We're not pilots. We're not naval aviators. Yeah, of course we do that. We're actually ambassadors of goodwill. That is what the Blue Angels are all about. That's the secret sauce. And I remember when I got selected for the team and I realized that it was everybody. It wasn't just the pilots. Just like in an organization, I have marketing support, I have admin support, I have maintenance. I have so many people that are part of this organization. And all of us were in this role model of inspiring greatness in another person. And, I still get the chance to do that. And that's what I feel is such a blessing. Very fortunate to be able to inspire others. I think that's the key.
I love that. So I can imagine across your career in the military, leaving the military, working for private equity, now running your own business, you've had so many hard choices to make and difficult decisions you've made over your really impressive career. What is the most difficult decision you've had to make in your military career?
Well, the first was, should I get out or not? I mean, I love the military. I love every minute. To have those experiences that I had and to serve was something very powerful. So that was my hardest decision, but it came with knowing that we all need to move on at some point. And why not dive into the pool? Not just tip your toe in, but dive in. So that was a big transition for me. And I'm very grateful that I was able to do it because now I get to not only work with the military, work with the SEALs, and I just had it on my podcast. I love this podcast. We have one called the High Performance Zone, and yesterday I had Mark Devine, a Navy SEAL, and we talked about this. And I find out that I can actually do more good by sharing the excellence and the experiences that I had and helping people connect the dots in their life. So that was the biggest and the hardest decision in the military.
That's awesome. Such a big takeaway for me is you can have an even bigger impact helping causes, helping the military and sort of elevating this story and the role and the impact that you have in service from the outside. And I think that is even so true for people in the business world. I volunteer or have volunteered for a lot of nonprofits, and I get a lot of feedback from peers saying, well, why don't you go and work for a nonprofit? You seem to care a lot about this. I can't do that much from inside. I can do more good for this world from a business perspective, from a corporate perspective. And I feel like there's a really interesting alignment of the good that you can do where you have those extra connections in the outside.
100%. One of the things my wife and I did is we started what we call the Glad to Be Here Foundation. And we started that because I wanted to give back. But honestly, I thought, well, I'll wait till I make a lot of money. But it wasn't happening very fast. So I said, wait a minute, why don't I start just today? And that was, over a decade ago. And so one of the things that is a core value of our company is we give 10% to nonprofits, to charity. And what I realized was that instead of being like, oh, regretful I hadn't done enough in the past, I said just future revenue. So every organization I work with, 10% of that gets to go to a charity. And here's what I do is I work with them. I say, what charity is meaningful to you? And in the last decade alone, we now have worked with over 403 nonprofits around the world, from everything from, I'm just going to Africa here in a month. And I'm working with my buddy who is Jeff Tabin. He is the head of ophthalmology at Stanford. And we go out there and he goes out there. It's called the Himalayan Cataract Project. And they go out there and we'll cure 1,000 people of blindness in 1 week. He does it. I just help. I carry the people around and stuff. But it's just so powerful to see how many people out there are doing good works. And I think that's exactly your message. We can do more good on the outside. I'm just blown away with how many people care and how many corporations care, how meaningful it really is to make a difference in someone else's life.
Now that's amazing. And I think curing 1,000 people of blindness in a week is absolutely incredible. And we need more people in this world doing that. And sometimes the best things we can do is help them get the funding to be able to get on an airplane, to get the equipment to go do that. Because you and I are not ophthalmologists, but how can we help in other ways?
Exactly. And here's the cool part is the impact. So it only costs $40. You can make a donation right now, $40 to the Himalayan Cataract Project, and that will cure someone of blindness. Why? Because it's cataracts. It's a simple operation in the Western world. But in the third world, and now here's the other beautiful thing, because I've seen the videos when a mother who's never seen her child gets her cataracts taken off, and now she can, wow, I get choked up, because when you see this, it is so powerful, and it's amazing what we all can do. It's incredible.
Awesome. And then after your military career and your non-military career, what is the most difficult decision you've had to make?
Well, it was shutting down a company that I had started. And what happened was, after the VC world, I said, no, I'm more of an entrepreneur. So what I wanted to do was build the NASCAR of aviation. So what NASCAR has done, I was going to do the aviation, roll up air shows, bring in performers, competition. Well, guess what? Red Bull did it, by the way. The Red Bull air races, you may be familiar with it. I was the first one to start that before Red Bull, but here's the problem. It was in 9/11, of a date we all know real well. Yeah, I'm in Manhattan on that day trying to close an equity deal with ESPN. We were gonna launch the league when the jets hit the tower. And so I was not only there, I just ran towards the tower. That's just my natural inclination. And I remember that experience really well. Well, that impacted a lot of people's lives in a very deep way. For me, the business plan blew up that day. You're not going to start an aviation entertainment company after 9/11. And so, it was hard. It was hard to shut down that dream. And, I did. I mean, I had $373,000 of debt of my own money, but that's okay. You just reinvent yourself. And I'm very grateful, because what it allowed me to do was what I'm doing now. I went to an event on mastery and team growth. And all of a sudden someone said, hey, you want to talk a little bit? And I was able to talk about what we did in the briefs and debriefing rooms and this trust. And all of a sudden the light bulb came on. High performance teams, how to turn this into business results. I know how to do this. Let's go out there and make a difference in the world. And that's been the last 2 decade journey.
Part of this for me goes back to this whole idea of mental toughness and mental fortitude, because there are so many people and it is far easier to take that step and go, I've now lost this money. I can't deal with this. Here's all of the reasons. This is too hard. And to come back and say, you know what, this absolutely sucks for a ton of reasons. And in the middle of the complete tragedy of September 11th, it's just a lot of terrible things at once, but be able to turn that around and say, well, now here's a new path that I'm supposed to be on. And although it would be very cool having you as the CEO of basically Red Bull Aviation and doing all the cool things there, 20 years later, I can only imagine the impact you've had on so many businesses and sports organizations on building high performing teams that is likely far outsized from the impact you would have had doing this really interesting aviation entertainment.
Thank you. And the other thing that is the own personal joy, right? Because I think what I've learned, and I got a new mantra in life, it's learn, grow, give. And then I realized I had the order wrong. You got to give first. If you give, then you learn and then you grow. And so that's my mantra in life. I just want to give. I want to give the organizations. I want to give the people. I want to give my knowledge. I want to give my wisdom, whatever I have. I just want to share it with them so that they can learn and grow. And that, you're right. I am so grateful that path came along. Now, I sure wouldn't have chosen it. But here's the cool part. It's COVID, right? If you think back to just the last year, all these things we're going through. See, I firmly believe that every opportunity is either a threat or an opportunity. Every challenge, rather, is either a threat or opportunity. It depends on your perception. How do you see it? And you know what I've learned? This is so cool, Lauren, is that practicing glad to be here or gratitude, it actually changes the way you see the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it changes the way the world sees you. So when you're in a grateful state of mind, the area of your brain that lights up is the same area of your brain where perceptions come from. It's what allows some people to see a glass as half full and others half empty. Same situation,
Mm-hmm.
two exactly different. And I think that's with COVID. I know for our company now, we used to be in the live presentation business. What happened in March of last year? We went 40 events to zero in 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
And what it did was it allowed us to do exactly this, is to reinvent ourselves. And now we've learned so much about how to create that experience online, how to create doing what we're doing right here, that it's actually opened up a whole new division in our company about training, about deeper dives. And now when the live events are coming back, we'll have more impact on the world. So it's just another great example of taking a challenge and turning it into something that's beneficial.
It absolutely is. And we never wanted this to happen. We never wanted to have to go through all of this. But what all of us have learned during the last 13 and a half, 14 months of COVID is, I can think of for your business, you had one type of revenue stream. Now you have multiple. And what's really cool is we can do this apart. I can have this incredible roundtable filled with these brilliant CIOs that aren't all based in San Francisco, and I could have them in from around the world. You can meet and interact with people from around the world, and that barrier of, well, it's going to be hard for me to get there, and here's all of the reasons, all goes away. We're just now figuring out how to build connection virtually.
And I think that's the key. You got to be able to do both, because I know, you had me on these roundtables, and we were in APAC and we were in EMEA and NORAM. And it was so cool to see that, yeah, actually we can connect globally to different organizations, not just time zones. You're connecting to the heart, right? Not just the head. And I think that's what's so beautiful that at least that I've learned through this experience, is that we'll be able to continue this well beyond. And there's still power to being in person. I get that 100%. But now we have both. And that's a power.
It is. It's going to be the live virtual combination. And I know you've got a podcast now. Tell me about the podcast you're running, all of the cool things you're doing.
Yeah, so the podcast is called The High Performance Zone. And what I do is I just get to interview people who are at the elite of their game. So we talked about, Mark Devine, Navy SEAL yesterday. I'll take the best business leaders. We'll take the best coaches. We'll take the best people, the best neurosurgeons, the best orthopedic surgeons, the team doctors for the Chicago Bulls, that kind of stuff. And I do what you do right here. We just have a conversation and we unpack what are the similarities in high performance and how do you connect that back into many different aspects of your life. So I love it because I learn more from my guests than I've ever learned before. And, we're having a fun. So if anybody's interested, just jump on any platform. It's called the High Performance Zone. Check in with us.
Awesome. And then tell me a little bit more about the consulting company you're doing. And I know we talked in the beginning about how you're working with businesses, but it's so interesting. And I also now need to binge on your podcast because all the types of people you talked about are, I don't know, I love neuroscience and I just want to go listen to that one.
Oh, there's so many. And let me know. We'll get them on your podcast for sure. There's so many cool guests. But I think the key is, how can you impact people's lives? So what I've learned is this idea. It's called John Foley Inc. In fact, anybody who wants to get some free, beautiful content from us, if you just go to johnfoleyinc.com, I put out a video series every week, right? Very short, impactful videos like how do you lead through change? How do you overcome turbulence? And they're just 2 to 3 minute videos. What I like to do is our typical connection with a company is when you need to bring somebody in to help get your game to the next level. And normally that's first to inspire people, right? I feel like you got to paint the picture, but you have to give them a real roadmap, a plan that integrates back. And what I realized was it's the old vision, plan, execute, feedback loop. I remember learning that in strategic management. What's the vision? Come up with a plan, execute on the plan, hopefully have a feedback loop, by the way, which should have really good data so you can make good decisions. Okay. What I realized was that Well, that works, no doubt. But the elite of the elite, the 1/10 of 1%, which by the way is what the Blue Angels represent, we actually do things slightly differently. And I said, whoa, what are those differences? So the first thing I like to talk about when I work with an organization is, what are your beliefs? It's not so much about vision. It's more about, how do you connect a vision? How do you connect people to believe in a vision? What's limiting us? What's liberating us? So fear is the biggest challenge out there right now. It's not the virus, it's fear. So how do you overcome fear? So we start usually with the belief levels. Then what you do is I take you inside the Blue Angel briefing room, because I got all this really cool footage. And we actually get to see, like you were mentioning, you got to be part of the SEALs for one night. And you get to see that, holy cow, they're a little different, right? So what's different? Yes, of course, we have meetings, and yes, we have standard operating procedures, but I talk about focus, that mental focus, and how you also can do a team focus. And then we connect everybody with alignment. And I show the example of all 5 jets, or 6 jets going straight up in the air, all individual roles, responsibilities. We go in different directions. We come back and cross. And so there's a center point alignment. You build trust. But the biggest and the most impactful thing is showing people how we do what I call a glad to be or debrief, which is, how do we learn every single day? How do we lay it on the table, open, honesty? How do we check our ego at the door, the humility? What's the respect? These are the key. I call them the 5 dynamics of a great debrief. And then once you're doing that, what it does, it resets belief levels, and you get this spiraling up process. So basically, that's what I do, but I always make sure it integrates into, where's the organization at? Is it an M&A? Are we launching a new product? How do we keep our people aligned and committed?
That's awesome. And one of the things that you had mentioned on the glad to be here and this idea of gratitude, I had read something that if you start to, whether it's a gratitude journal or you start your day with, every single day, we all learn something, we all achieve something, we should be grateful for something. Even the absolute worst day you have ever had, I can guarantee you learned something. You might have learned that I need to turn on the bathroom light or I'm going to stub my toe. Take that as a lesson. Or you might have made your bet. Every day we learn something. And if you start to think on this and focus on this, you can actually rewire the neural pathways in your brain. And that's the really interesting part, is it's not just, and as a New Yorker, and I grew up in New York, I've been in California for more than 13 years. As a New Yorker, we are skeptical and cynical, and it's, no, that's not real. That's a bunch of, woo-woo stuff that's not real. But there's actual science behind it, that if you start your day with this idea, I love how you phrase it as glad to be here, but you start with gratitude and lessons learned and things to be grateful for, you will become more grateful. You will become happier. Your brain starts to wire itself that way. And that's pretty incredible.
It's amazing. And like you said, neuroscience is really catching up with this right now and showing the real results. So can I share with you a routine that I do every morning?
I would love that.
So here's what I do, because I think routines are absolutely critical, both in business and life. So I like to wake up happy, and I said, shoot, how can I wake up happy? Well, it's with gratitude. That's the number one thing. The more grateful we are for happiness, the better. See, happiness doesn't come from just making a lot of money and all that. We all know that. When you're grateful, that's where happiness comes. So here's what I do. I do my glad to be or wake up. Very first thing I do, the minute I wake up, when my eyes open up, I do what you're talking about. I say, what am I grateful for in the present moment? And, today was actually easy because I live in Sun Valley, Idaho, and we've been skiing. It's been awesome. It's moving to springtime. I'm not on the road. Normally I'm on the road about 200 days out of the year doing 100 events, right? But now I'm home. So I get to wake up with my wife. We just rescued a new puppy, not puppy, 2-year-old Rhodesian Ridgeback. So we rescued her. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this morning I went, I'm just grateful to have this moment. But then here's what I do. I go back 24 hours. And this is critical. I go back to what happened yesterday and I say, what event was I on yesterday? What podcast did I do? And I think about people's faces. All right. And I'll remember your face tomorrow morning. I'll say, wow, what an experience I had with Lauren. Right. Then you go forward in your day and you actually think about what you're going to do. So today I was thinking about this podcast and it plants seeds in your day. So it turns out you're absolutely right. If you do that, and we don't know how long, it takes about 40 to 65 times before you will actually change the neuroplasticity of your brain changes and you have more happy thoughts. It's really cool. I'd say for everybody, don't believe me, just try it.
I couldn't agree with you more. I will say I don't do a morning routine, I do a night routine,
Yep.
which is
Supposedly
and I
that's almost better because it plants the seeds as you go to sleep. Because what you think about right before you go to sleep ruminates in your brain, right? So if you want to go to sleep with all the stress in your life, you're going to make that worse, right? So I love what you're doing. Keep it up.
I started doing that. I need to try yours. The thing I started doing a few years ago was I have to write things down. If I don't write it down, it doesn't leave my body. And I will write down what are 3 things I'm grateful for, what are 3 things I accomplished today, and what are 3 things I learned today. And on the days I sat on the couch and did nothing, on the worst days that I have, if you really start to think about it, every single day,
Yes.
you did something, you accomplished something, you learned something. On your worst days, there is something to be grateful for, and forcing myself to do it. And honestly, during COVID, I missed a lot of days, but it gives you that reframe. So it's so easy for us to spiral into negativity. And I need to start trying yours because I wake up a little like, oh my gosh, I have to get up. Okay, I'm getting out of bed. You can do this. You can do this. I like your way of waking up.
Let's help each other. I'll do the gratitude journal at night because I know what the power of that journaling is. And you do the glad to be here, wake up in the morning. We'll both do it together and watch what happens. It's just so incredible.
I like this. This has been absolutely amazing. We have one final segment, which is always fun. It's the quick decisions, questions to answer quickly.
So as a Blue Angel, just to preface this, we have to talk about decision making, right? So, when you're coming at each other at 1,000 miles per hour closer, you're absolutely making 1,000 quick decisions rapidly. But here's what really gets cool. You get into a state of flow where if you even are thinking it's too slow, right? You're actually in this awesome state. So I'm ready. Go for me. Hit me up.
I love it. Okay. What is one talent or skill that's not on your resume?
I like to say that I have a superpower of gratitude. And I've learned how powerful gratefulness really is.
Why do they call you Gucci?
Gucci?
Yeah.
Well, you don't get to pick it. All right.
Okay.
All fighter pilots, we get call signs.
Yep.
Right. They're kind of like nicknames, but it's call signs. And you want to be like Iceman or Maverick or Viper, something cool, right? So what happened to me with my buddies, we go out on the town one night and they say, hey, let's meet in the lobby. And I show up wearing a thin black leather tie. Okay, that wasn't even cool in the 80s, right? And my teammates are looking at me. They go, what is that? That's Gucci. And I'm like, no, and sure enough, it stuck, but it didn't help. I was living on a sailboat and driving an Alfa Romeo at the time too.
Yep, I can see why they called you Gucci. If you never joined the Navy, what do you think your alternate career path would be?
Well, I wanted to play pro football, but I wasn't big enough and strong enough. I was able to play college ball at the D1 level, but I think my backup plan was to be an orthopedic surgeon because I wanted to work with athletes.
Oh, it's amazing. And you get to do that now.
Yeah, see, that's the cool part. Now I get to work with both on the side of the surgeons and the athletes and business leaders. I'm just, surrounded by people who are so excellent at what they do. And it's just amazing. Just like you, having this conversation is just so powerful.
So I know what podcast I'm going to be binging, which will be yours. But what is your favorite book, podcast, TV show? What have you been binging on lately?
Yeah, so it's funny. You mentioned neuroscience and Huberman. I don't know. Have you done the Huberman Labs yet? He's in Stanford.
No.
Yeah, Andrew Huberman. Great if you're into the neuroscience behind how our brains work. That's good. I've got a good buddy, Dave Meltzer. He has the playbook. It's more about operationalizing and business. So lots of good buddies out there.
Final question. What's your top piece of advice you would give your younger self?
It starts with the glad to be here. I would say every single day, every single morning, appreciate the opportunity you have and give back. Continue to give back as you are growing yourself.
I love it. That is awesome. Thank you so much for being here, for spending time with us. And we will link up to your website, your podcast in our show notes. And it has been an absolute pleasure.
Lauren, thank you. And thanks everybody out there. Glad to be here.
Truth Be Known is brought to you by Talend. A leader in data integration and data integrity, Talend enables every company to find clarity amidst the chaos. Talend Data Fabric brings together in a single platform all the necessary capabilities that ensure enterprise data is complete, clean, compliant, and readily available to everyone who needs it throughout the organization. Learn more at talend.com. That's Talend.com.